Then with the rehabilitation of the breakwaters, what it means is you are going to have a port in Warri that will be active, that will take vessels that are large enough to compete with other ports. Currently in Warri, what is happening, there's a natural phenomenon they call nip tide. At a certain time, the tide comes down and certain size of vessels are not able to come in. And there's also limitation in the number, in terms of the size of vessels that come in. But we believe that with this, we'll be able to resolve that problem and also ensure that the other ports, Sapele, Koko, and other developments and locations along that channel will be able to bring in larger vessels into those locations instead of using feeder vessels into it. We believe that will reduce the cost of operations in those locations. Now we move into port infrastructure renewal and maintenance. We realize the importance of having proper and adequate communication between vessels and those on land. Before now, communication has been terrible. Vessels most times actually don't get communicated to before they enter our channels. So we started rehabilitation of our control towers. These control towers were built in the 70s by Julius Berger, and they have obsolete radar system and communication system. But their reconstruction has just been concluded, and we have deployed state-of-the-art communication system and radar system that will enable communication between our harbors department and ships as they come into our channels. We have rehabilitated the control towers in Tinkan, Apapa, Warri Port, and then we're also going to begin the rehabilitation of other control towers so that we upgrade the communication system in those locations. We have realized that automation is a catalyst for port efficiency, and therefore we decided to aggressively pursue that. We believe automation brings efficiency, it saves time, it reduces leakages and wastages. Currently, Nigerian Ports Authority, in the past few years since the advent of the Mohammed Buhari administration, have automated a lot of our systems. We have the revenue invoice management system, which enables us to raise invoices automatically without, not manually. That has improved collections, it has reduced wastages, it has reduced fraud in the system. We also have an electronic ship entry notice, ESEN. That enables ship captains to book entry into Nigeria, electronically, not manually. Formerly, they need to fill a certain form, scan it, either fax it, or scan it and send. But now you can go online and book entry into Nigeria. We also have a command and control and communication intelligence system, which we'll show you there. We are currently using Oracle Financials in NPA, Oracle Hyperion, Oracle Human Resource. We also have a digital archive. But we also realized that there was need for us to come up with automation that would be used by all stakeholders. And we consulted IMO, that's the International Maritime Organization. The IMO gave us a consultant that will assist us deploy what they call the Port Community System. The Port Community System is a platform for exchange of information and data between relevant stakeholders and agencies in the maritime industry. And the consultant had already, the first phase of the consultancy was virtual, and all government agencies and stakeholders in the industry were involved, from Shippers Council to Nigerian Customs to freight forwarders to shipping lines and so on and so forth. The second consultancy required them to come into the country, and the consultants were in Nigeria for 10 days. They have gone around, they have seen what is on ground, they've gone back to come back with the report. But there will be a final visit where they have to visit every stakeholder in the maritime industry to understand the IT deployments they have in place so that they will integrate them into the port community system. The problem with automation in the industry is every stakeholder has a different automation. Some are ahead of others. But you could also have them not being able to integrate. So everybody is working in silos. The port community system will be a catalyst for the deployment of a national single window, which we hope will come and be deployed, which we hope will come actually to life very soon in Nigeria. So, and then with the AFTAC agreement, we believe Nigeria needs to be highly competitive and ready for competition from other African countries. The second thing we did was to look at the current and existing ports of Tinkan and Apapa. What is the major problem? Those ports were built in the 70s. The city has caught up with those ports. And that's why you have perennial traffic and gridlock. Hitherto, we used to have manual manifest of, of trucks into the ports. The two ports handle approximately 1,500 truck movement daily into the ports. And we felt there was need for us to automate that. So we entered into partnership with Truck Tracing Park to come up with an electronic call-up system, which we named ATO. And the essence of that here is for us to improve efficiency there. There's a video here to do with the truck transit park. And what we are doing now is to try to deploy it to other port locations. We have seen a gradual increase in traffic and gridlock in One. Eventually, we will deploy a call-up system to Lekki and other port locations. That deployment has helped us. What we did was to ask the private sector to set up truck parks. So you have truck parks that are pre-gates, and then some truck parks, of course, is from there, the truck will now go to a pre-gate. And that has created employment. It has added value, and we have seen increase and improvement in flow of traffic and trucks into the ports of Tinkan and Apapa. And we hope that by the time the road construction is concluded, especially the road leading to Tinkan, that things will get better. We also came up with an empty container policy. We realized that the shipping lines were turning Nigeria into a dumping ground for empty containers. And we therefore requested that every shipping line must actually evacuate minimum of 80% of all container imports into the country at any given time. So if in the month of July you bring in, say, 10,000 containers, we expect that you take out 80% of it. If not, there were penalties, and that had worked. We also requested that they create container holding bays. Because the land size of the port is so small, there was no space for every empty container to be brought directly into the port. It's one of the things that was creating traffic. So we requested the shipping lines to create empty container holding bays at certain locations, not too far away. Some of them, of course, are a bit far away from the port. But so that importers can empty the containers, return the empty containers to container holding bays, and when the vessel is ready to evacuate the empty containers, they call up those those trucks, and then they bring them in. So that has reduced traffic, and that actually created a lot of employment. And so currently we have about 46 holding bays and about 17 truck parks and 20 pre-gates. And all these were created by private sector investors that we invited to show interest. In terms of transparency and ease of doing business, to align with the global drive and the drive of the President Muhammad Buhari's government in terms of ease of doing business, we implemented a 24-hour port service at Apapa. That was a test run to see how stakeholders will react to it. The essence here is to encourage importers and exporters to take in their cargo for export, come in and take out cargo that they have imported 24 hours throughout 7 days. And we have seen a positive reaction to it. Of course, there are security issues along the road leading to the ports, which we are working with the Lagos State government to actually reduce the security threats. The authority also sponsored the production of the Nigerian Ports Process Manual, which is a document that gives a step-by-step guide of all processes and procedures governing the conduct of doing business in our ports. I've been sure everything was vague. Everyone you ask has a different answer to how do I do this. We came up with a manual that tells an importer what to do, an exporter what to do, a freight forwarder's everybody's responsibility is in that manual. So working with Nigerian Shippers Council, we actually brought that, and we went around and had stakeholders meeting. And then we also published our tariffs online so that there was no ambiguity, so that everybody knows the tariff. This is what you are going to pay. From the beginning, if you are a freight forwarder, you know the tariffs you are going to tell the importer you are helping to clear his items. And he can also go online and check these things. We also published all the needed forms for you to apply, whether it is badge license, whether it is bonded terminal, whatever it is. Anything that you need from Nigerian Ports Authority is actually published online on our website, and the website is nigerianportsauthority.gov.ng. Now, in supporting the federal government's effort at fixing the poor road network, we know that Nigerian Ports Authority, we are responsible for road network within the port premises. But actually, we felt there was also a need for us to reach out to see that the road leading into Apapa was worked on. And sometime in 2018, we worked with Dangote and flour mills, and we contributed about 1.8 billion as our CSR, which was used to reconstruct a certain part of the road at that time. In terms of multimodalism, we realized that before the advent of this government, Nigerian Ports Authority was relying completely on evacuation of cargo by road. Imagine the quantum of imports into the country and exports going by road. It's not efficient and it's expensive. And working with Nigerian Railway Corporation and the Federal Ministry of Transportation, we know that rail was sent into the ports. We also introduced barge operations for movement of cargo from one location to another off-dock location, and this is a video of some of the cargo operations. Since the creation and introduction of the movement of cargo by Nigerian Ports Authority by barge, over 500,000 TEUs have been moved through the channels from one location to the other. We believe the industry has grown to about 10 billion naira annual business, and over 25,000 direct and indirect jobs have actually been created. One of the most important factors for our success and in our success is our staff. We have some of the best trained civil servants you can find, hardworking, very honest. All they need is encouragement and the proper training. And the maritime industry is dynamic. It changes every day. And we felt the need to increase capacity development and training of our staff. And we had gone ahead to invest in a training facility and also in the simulation center. That's the video of the training school. It has halls, a canteen, a clinic. It also has a kitchen, and it is able to train almost 400 or so staff at a given time. The essence here is to reduce cost and also for us to be able to take advantage of the relationship we have with the World Maritime University, the IMO, and other institutes in the country. That way we'll be able to bring in everyone we need to come in and train our staff. And then also we have a simulator center. The simulator center is actually for our pilots. You can see the video by the right-hand side. This was commissioned recently. Before the commissioning of this simulation center, we send our pilots to UK, to Morocco, Algeria, and other places for regular training. And we felt it was time that we create our own simulation center. It has been properly certified. It provides the critical and necessary training, and that has reduced, forex evacuation or payment of, in foreign currency by Nigerian Ports Authority to other training institutes outside the country. So this is also to support the government's policy in terms of preservation of our foreign exchange, doing it here ourselves. So that's the video there. Whatever we do in Lagos, we also need to ensure that we replicate in other ports. Currently, I don't know, somehow, psychologically, every Nigerian thinks, most Nigerians importers actually think there are only two ports of Tinkan and Apapa. And we felt there was need for us to do something about the ports in the east. What did we do? So the first thing we did was to tackle the issue of insecurity. At those port locations, after 4 o'clock, the vessels cannot come to port. They cannot also leave and sail out of port because of insecurity. This is because the channel is very long. Most of the channels from the fairway buoy to the port is over 100 kilometers. So imagine going or sailing 100 kilometers in a channel that is meandering without safety and security. And of course, without security, there have been a lot of piracy incidences along that. So what we did was we worked with the Nigerian Navy, and I want to use this opportunity to thank the CNS for the support it has given Nigerian Ports Authority in terms of increase in patrol, the support he has given us in terms of advice working with our security department, and he has does that across the ports, especially in the eastern ports. We have also working with Nigerian Ports Authority and working with NIMASA, the Federal Ministry of Transportation has requested that NIMASA should deploy the deep blue sea assets to the eastern ports, and I think that has been done, and they will be operational shortly, probably in the next few weeks. But of course, we worked with the Nigerian police also to create marine police at these locations. There were no marine police in Calabar, I think, and Delta until recently when we requested that we need to have marine police who will be in boats patrolling the waterways, especially the ones within the vicinity of the ports. And therefore, we bought more security patrol boats and gave it to the marine police for them to be able to patrol the vicinity of the port to reduce incidences of piracy and hijacking of our vessels. These are some of the vessels that marine crafts we bought. We bought more pilot cutters because they were not existent they didn't exist, or we had very few of them in the eastern ports. We also bought more tugboats to ensure that we offer services that will endear the shipping lines to the eastern ports. We also gave a tariff in terms of rebate. We gave tariff rebate to shipping lines to encourage them to bring in or do business in the eastern ports. But of course, we know there are complaints that it's not enough, we need to do more. We are working on coming up with a tariff relief that will trickle down to the importer or to the exporter. If we give the shipping lines tariff relief that does not trickle down to those that are bringing or taking out cargo, then we have actually done nothing. They will smile to the banks, while Nigerians that are doing businesses at those port locations will see no reason to actually move their cargo from those eastern ports. Also, we ensured, like I had mentioned, the certification of the ports of in the east. So the ports of Tinkan and the ports of Calabar and One are now ISO certified and will ensure the other port locations are also certified. And because of this, we have seen a tremendous increase in cargo traffic in One. Year to year, in terms of percentage, One is the fastest growing port in terms of business and activity in Nigeria currently, and we are happy to see that. We're happy to see that a port outside of Lagos is becoming active. And it's not just active in terms of importation, it is also active in terms of exports. And we will keep doing whatever it takes to deploy the adequate machinery, equipment, and staff into those locations. One of the major issues along the channels in the east was also the issue of navigational aids. Navigational aids are buoys that you put along the water to help pilots know how to navigate. One of the channels is about 110 kilometers long. The one in Lagos is barely 20-something kilometers, so you can see the difference. However, all the buoys we deploy at those locations are either stolen or pilfered and turned into scraps. Of course, we have worked with the community leaders in Warri, in Calabar, and other locations to plead that they speak with the community to stop, stealing whatever this navigational is. They are quite expensive. So what we did in the last 1 year was to deploy a new set of buoys along the channel. And shipping lines have been writing to actually indicate that that is one of the things that will make them come to the eastern port. So the buoys have been deployed at in the channel leading to Warri Port and also in Calabar. And we are working to ensure that we maintain them and they remain there. Of course, some of them, nature takes some of them away. They go adrift. But those that go adrift, if they go adrift, you'll be able to monitor and find them, because they have transponders that can make them easy for you to identify where they are. So, but some of them mostly are stolen and turned to scraps, and that has affected navigation in those channels, and it has made it difficult for vessels to operate in those locations. We also deployed fenders at both the eastern ports and other port locations. These are deployments that will endear the shipping lines. This will provide safety when they are berthing at those locations. To support the federal government's initiative in terms of expansion of the economy and diversification to export of agricultural commodities and other non-oil exports, whether mined minerals or so, Nigerian Ports Authority, working with Nigerian Export Promotion Council, actually licensed 10 export processing terminals. The essence of these export processing terminals, excuse me, is to have a location where an exporter can take his good, he can sort them, he can brand them, he can package them, they can test them, they can label them, and so on and so forth. And from that location, you put them in a container, you seal the container, and it goes straight into the port and it is loaded on the vessel. Unlike the practice where currently the the exporter takes his cargo, he's hanging around the port corridor, waiting when to be called on, and we've been losing a lot of cargo, especially perishable cargo. And that has actually reduced the amount of exports from Nigeria. So we work with Nigerian Export Promotion Council in such a way that this will be made easier. And this is the video of some of the export processing terminals. One of them is a Celebra Export Processing Terminal, which is in Ikorodu. There's another one in One, and there are a couple of others all over the country. This is palm kernel shelling and stuffing operations at an export processing terminal in One. The other video was a Celebra in Lagos. And these are some of the pictures of the export processing terminals. And this one is in One. So you find that these export processing terminals are supposed to be linked to Nigerian Export Promotion Council's domestic export warehouses. It means that with time, even small exporters can actually determine by themselves to actually go and start processing their exports, as long as they've been able to work with Nigerian Export Processing Council to find off-takers abroad. And we have seen a gradual increase in exports. We have received feedback, and I think it's a laudable effort. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my presentation. I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, the MD NPA. Of course, if we listen thoroughly to the presentation, we can see that the Nigerian port is actually repositioning itself to make sure that the export drive input in the Nigeria's economy is given the impetus that it deserves. As we settle down, let me...
Excellent. Flawless.
Let the MD settle down as you arrange who and who will ask the questions. Express Day, right? You never ask, you will ask today. John Bosco, Leon, and Julie.
Good morning, sir. My name is Abdul Qadir Yakasai, reporting for Express Radio. Sir, in your presentation, you have stated that you have a collaboration with Nigerian Railway Corporation for carry containers by rail. Which time this operation started?
Yeah, MD, my name is John Bosco Abakuru. I write for Vanguard. Sir, you mentioned some of the new ports you are developing. And we do know that the country has some ports that are not effective. For instance, the Calabar port. There has been controversy over the dredging, and some people have been alleging that because of the wee-wee syndrome, the contractor that was given the project, because Nawiwi, abandoned the project and nothing has happened. One, what is happening to Calabar ports? And it's believed that every vessel must pass through a port. Recently, in August, a vessel found its way carrying crude in Equatorial Guinea. It's believed that you should be aware of the movement of the vessel that was arrested in Equatorial Guinea. What really happened that you were unable, to know the movement of that vessel? Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, my name is Dr. Leon of the Nigerian Tribune. Now, many Nigerian exporters, they prefer to go through the Cotonou port, possibly for efficiency's sake, or in terms of cargo management. Some of the reasons for this, as told by former Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi earlier this year, are that in Nigerian ports, you have red tapes, rent seeking, corrupt illegal charges. Among other factors, like you have mentioned what you are doing concerning congestions. So why have these issues persisted? And what can you pledge, as an administration, by way of getting rid of these menace? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Juliana Taiwo Baloyan of the Sun newspapers. Okay, mine has to do, I know recently NPA revealed that 18 terminal operators owe the nation 490 billion naira. I would like to know what you are doing to recover that money. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Let me start with the first question to do with Nigerian Railway Corporation. Actually, evacuation of cargo using the rail had already commenced. It commenced about a year ago. But however, I know that Nigerian Railway Corporation needs more stock in terms of, what they need to carry more containers. The operation has started, but I know that recently the Federal Minister of Transportation in a certain meeting had talked about the need for Nigerian Railway Corporation to restock, the need for Nigerian Ports Authority and Nigerian Railway to also sit down and work with other dry ports that are in the hinterland towards ensuring that when their cargo comes in to the ports, the rails are actually used, the trains are used to evacuate that cargo. But I can assure you that that has already commenced. The question for Calabar, we all know that there's a court case, a very old court case before this government came into power between Nigerian Ports Authority and the private individual or the company that was awarded the contract. That was issued to do with whether the dredging was done in that period or not. While the matter is sub judice, but I would like to address it. In recent times, we have explored the possibility of out-of-court settlement between Nigerian Ports Authority and the said company. Until that is done, actually, nothing can be done. But currently, what we are working on is how to survey the channel itself to actually determine the current depth, the current draft of the channel from beginning of the channel to the end. And we'll pay attention in terms of rehabilitation of the quays in that location and the port facilities. But the out of court settlement is ongoing. The Minister of Transportation is looking at it with Nigerian Ports Authority, and I believe that before the end of the year we should find a lasting solution to that court case. The issue of the vessel with the crude. Now, intelligent persons bringing in vessels to steal crude, one of the things they do is they shut down the AIS. This is what is needed in terms of transmission for you to even know the vessel comes in. And the locations they go into, they come in legally, but then they go by the left-hand side to commit illegal activities after switching off their AIS. And in my presentation, I have mentioned that we are going ahead to deploy what they call the VTS. And then we are working with NASDA to also have information in terms of vessel movement. Once we're able to do that, I believe movement of vessels into the country will be impossible to, we are going to make it very difficult for them to come into the country without being monitored. Some of these systems, even if you switch off your, is it AIS or IAS? Your AIS, even if you switch it off today and switch it on in the next 6 months, once you switch it on, it actually shows the person looking for that vessel, all the locations that vessel have been, for how long, and on what date. And this is what Nigerian Ports Authority needs. This is what the nation needs. Smaller African countries have had these things for so long, and it is now that we are working to ensure that these systems are deployed in Nigeria. We have the support of the Federal Ministry of Transportation. The minister has made it one of his core mandates, one of the things the low-hanging fruits, as he calls it, and he's working with us closely to ensure that this is deployed. You talked about the exporters. Now, in my presentation, and I did that purposely, I needed everyone to understand the responsibilities of Nigerian Ports Authority. Nigerian Ports Authority does not handle cargo. It is the terminal operators. Our responsibility is to bring in the vessels. However, now, what is the process of cargo export? One of the things they have complained about is the NXP form, which is under the Central Bank of Nigeria. Some of it is cargo examination by the Nigerian customs. Some of it is the documentation. The documentation for the exporters have to fill is very cumbersome. And I know that Nigerian Ports Authority, Nigerian Customs, and other government agencies are working together to deploy the National Single Window and other platforms that will make it easy and reduce the quantum of documents that you need to fill, whether you are importing or you are exporting. The information that Nigerian Ports Authority is interested in could be the volume or the weight of the cargo, while another government agency is looking for the type of cargo in order to charge a tariff. So why can't we have a single document that will have all the information that all the government agencies need at once? And I think one of the mandates given to us recently is for us to work together, Nigerian Ports Authority, Nigerian Customs, the Central Bank of Nigeria, to ensure that we streamline this documentation, reduce red tape, and ensure that exports actually get out of the country as quickly as possible. However, that's why we also created the export processing terminals. Every export processing terminal is supposed to have a customs export desk. The Standard Organization of Nigeria is supposed to be there. All the government agencies, all the agencies that certify any export, that test it, everybody, NAFDAC, everyone is supposed to have presence at those export processing terminals. That means all the red tape will be reduced, and this cargo will actually get to the port sealed in a container and ready to go. This will resolve some of the problems. We have been having regular discussions and meetings with exporters, and they have bought into this idea, and they have seen it as an idea, as something, as a concept, as an initiative that will actually reduce red tape. But we need the support of other government agencies for this to work. The processes are not just NPA, there are various and many government agencies involved in this, and we require the other government agencies to also work with us to ensure that this is resolved. So I pledge to you that we will deploy and ensure the export processing terminals we have licensed are working. We have given 10 licenses, and the intention is after 6 months, anyone that does not meet our requirements, we will delist that terminal and give license to other Nigerians that are interested. We are not going to be issuing export processing terminals licenses so they don't come into, become things people will just get and put in a drawer. We really need them to work. We need them to be active. Recently, the Nigerian Customs have actually posted custom officers to some of these export processing terminals. Other government agencies are also deploying their officers to go there. There will be scanners, there will be weigh bridge. It's like a port, but strictly meant for exports. And I think we'll get to the end of this shortly. The issue of the 90 billion debt. So what NPA has is a relationship with multiple stakeholders, whereby some of them are owing you today, they are not owing you tomorrow, and so on and so forth. The figure you had is a figure at a certain date. But as at the date it came out, these liabilities have been recovered. However, there are some liabilities that are not recoverable. So for instance, let's assume I've given you 10 hectares of land, and the 10 hectares of land, they are supposed to pay me 10 million naira for the sake of example. And out of it, the 10 hectares, 3 hectares of it, you don't have access to it, either because of community encroachment, or either NPA is supposed to have filled the land and they didn't fill it up. That means, as a private entity, what you do is you automatically pay NPA for the 70% that you have access to. And that 30% is some of it that is accumulated. Some of it actually came up because of the concession agreement that was signed in 2006, which was reviewed over time. But virtually over 90% or so of this so-called liability or debt as a then that is recoverable has been recovered. There are shipping lines that you enter relationship with knowing that they are credible. So what you create is a situation whereby they deposit a certain amount of money, probably $10 million, for example, and as they are operating, they are deducting, and then they replenish that amount. That's more like a credit scheme. This is because these are people that their businesses just keeps happening. They get vessels being diverted from one country to the other. If you wait until they pay money, and this is the practice, this is an international practice that every port in the country, in the world, is practicing, and Nigeria is also practicing that. But I can assure you that every recoverable debt out of this amount has been recovered. Thank you.
Second batch. So, let me just say some of the online comments. Most of them have actually been commending you for the presentation, but there's a particular question there. This man, Bolaji Ogundele, he says the tin can and upper key aprons are collapsing and they are in a terrible state. What are the plans towards rehabilitating them? Second group. The chair? Chair, we have more than 6 here now. Okay, sir. Chair 1, Choji 2, Tony 3, Gloria 4.
My name is Ismail Yusuf. So my is just clarification from the financial implications of the Lekki Deep Seaport. In your presentation, you mentioned 1.3 billion. Is it in naira or in dollars?
Thank you, sir. My name is Timothy Choji. I report for Voice of Nigeria. In line with President Muhammad Buhari's sustained fight against corruption, I'd like to know what modalities you've put in place to check sharp practices among agents or clearing agents who might collaborate with some of your staff to deprive government of revenue. I'd like to know measures put in place to check that. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
My name is Tony I11. I write for Business Day newspaper. My question has to do with your revelation of stolen boys along the eastern waterways. And I know that this is serious because Nigerians have been wondering why there's so much concentration at the Tinkan Island port and Apapa port, for instance. And people have been asking, why don't we diversify in such a way that you can have access to the eastern ports and then let there be the congestions on the Lagos axis. And then now we're coming up with issue of stolen boys on the navigational waterways. How serious is this, the operations that you are carrying out there? And can you put a figure in terms of the losses, amount that have been lost, and what you have to do to replace these boys on this waterway? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gloria Omezuke from Channels TV. So I was just trying to wrap my head around what you said concerning the non-detection of vessels. You know, you tried to explain that there's that instrument that can be turned off. How does it just happen? And in how many years of the Buhari administration have we had losses owing to this very, you know, I don't know, this IS, right? So it's quite important. How come it was not taken seriously? Do you sense any sabotage or deliberate sabotage of the system? And what is the amount of loss we have gained from this whole, I don't know, what word do I use to, I don't want to use an extreme word, but I'm sure you understand where I'm going to.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. The issue of Tinkan and Apapa is in my presentation, actually. The Tinkan and Apapa quays are, yes, collapsing, but Tinkan is one of the oldest ports. We have done a conditional survey, and there are interior drawings and designs and a BEME. And one of the mandates given to us by the Minister of Transportation is to ensure that we conclude all the necessary documentation, the reviews, and what have you, so that he goes to get FEC and presidential approval for us to begin the immediate reconstruction of Tinkan. However, don't forget that there are terminal operators that are operating in that location. So there are multiple options. The first option is for the terminal operators to rehabilitate the quays and they recoup their money. But however, not all the terminal operators have the same financial muscle to do it. This is the key, for instance, and there are, let's say, about 6 or 7 terminals. If you allow the man in the middle to start reconstruction without the person next to him being ready to start, you will create a problem with the integrity of the quays. So it must be a planned reconstruction. The other option is for government to fund it. Of course, government does not have money. The initial estimate is going to cost slightly above $400 million to reconstruct Tinkan. So the other option is hybrid, where NPA would borrow the money from a multilateral funding agency, and then using our revenue, we pay for that facility over 10 years. This is being looked at, but the Minister of Transportation has requested that we do this with immediate effect. And I can assure you that we are taking that instruction seriously, and that will commence very soon. Of course, apart from Tinkan and Apapa, also BUA has been given approval in terms of his design, that's in Riversport, for him to start reconstruction of the quays in Riversport also. And we are taking this port by port and ensuring that the necessary reconstructions are done at this port location. We expect BUA to start construction maximum in November, all things being equal, actually. In Lekki, the 1.3 billion I mentioned about Lekki is from the first phase to the last phase, but it's in dollars. The first phase is about 600 and something million in dollars, actually. In terms of corruption, someone asks, what are we doing to make sure that clearing agents do not connive with NPA staff? So, like I said, NPA does not handle cargo anymore. It's the terminal operators that are handling cargo. So a clearing agent that wants to clear his cargo actually goes to the terminal operator and does his processes. Yes, there are some fees payable to Nigerian Ports Authority. They are there online. Everybody knows the fees. There's transparency. The clearing agent cannot ask you to pay more than you are supposed to. That is given. But over 90% of what you will pay as an importer is related to either customs duty or payment to the terminal operators and so on and so forth. It's the terminal operators that pay Nigerian Ports Authority. However, what we keep doing is regular stakeholder meetings at various port locations on a quarterly basis. And in the stakeholder meetings, we expect everyone that is a stakeholder in our industry to come in there and get information and get feedback. Our website is interactive. Our Servicom department is doing a very good job. And we are ready to answer any questions and inquiries as the need arises. The loss of buoys is very, very serious thing. So everybody here has Google Map probably. You go to a city, you use Google Map to find your way somewhere. The buoys are the markers that are replacing Google Map on the channel. We have gone to so many forums where shipping companies, for instance, the Greece Shipping Association said they don't want to come to Nigeria, especially Warri and Calabar, because of the absence of these buoys. You need those buoys for you to know where to meander left. A vessel can meander 1 meter to the left and it goes aground in the absence of those buoys. And the theft has been there for so long. What we have done is to reach to the communities and plead that these metals you are seeing cost millions of naira. They are not to be scrapped. Those that steal them actually turn them to scrap. And what we are saying is to please leave them where you find them. When these ports are operational, it brings economic activity to the communities that are involved actually. And we've made them understand that those who are stealing these things do not have the interest of the local community where the ports are located. We do the best we can whenever we procure. The procurement process is quite cumbersome and difficult, but we always buy a bit, 1 or 2 extras, and then we replace. But some of them, nature takes them away, but they go adrift. But when you check, you find their location because they have transponders, they have locators on them, you can easily find them. The ones stolen by the communities are stolen and scrapped, and I think 3 or 4 months ago, we deployed some. In less than a month, 2 are missing already, you know. So we are pleading, we are using this avenue to plead with community leaders, with associations in those parts where, in fact, every port community, we are pleading that, please, the buoys you see, these are the pictures of the buoys, are a critical and integral part of the operations of the ports. The captains will not come to those ports if those buoys are around. They are very expensive to deploy, to purchase and deploy. Even the deployment of those buoys takes a lot of work. So, sir, to your questions, we are losing a lot of money because you find that the cost of doing business in those ports is very high. Because a captain, so there are captains that have been used to the port, to the channel for so long. Very few of them want to come there. They are taking risks by coming there. So imagine if there are supposed to be 60 buoys on the channel and there are only 29 or 30. That means he's just going to aggregate and just try to say, okay, if I go to the right, you understand what I'm saying? It's quite difficult. This, and the water is murky, the channel is long, which makes it more difficult. The other question has to do with detection of, so, madam, let me put it this way. Wherever you have such criminal activities in waterways, is the AI as the switch off, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in Cambodia, whether it's in America, wherever it is, that is it. But what others have done is to deploy technology that would ensure that it does not happen. And that is what we have been trying to do. The vessels that come in here, what I try to explain is, as long as a vessel is getting into our channel and is calling at a location monitored by Nigerian Ports Authority, you will know why, you will know it is coming. But when it enters into the channel, it goes to steal crude. We are not monitoring what is it loading, what is it offloading. Ours is that it has come to the Warri channel, it is going to social location, and it actually goes there. Our investigation has shown that they go to those locations and depart and go where they are not supposed to before they now go offshore. We are working with Nigerian Navy, with NNPC and other government agencies to actually fight crude theft. And actions taken and initiatives that have been deployed in the last, not too long ago, will actually, bring a reduction in this theft. We'll keep working with relevant government agencies to ensure that this does not happen. So when you say if there is sabotage in the system, it's not the system that is sabotaging, it is those outside the system, those who are interested in crude theft that are actually doing some of these things, actually. I've told you VTS is one of the things we need to, and the port community system helps documentation also. The VTS monitors everything. We're also working with NASDA. NASDA is the Nigerian Airspace Research Development Agency. From their satellite feed, we are working with them. It's something that we are working on towards what you are saying. For us in NPA, it's towards revenue generation, actually. Vehicle tracking system. So, madam, it's not the cost of procurement. For the past 10 years, Nigeria or NPA has been trying to procure it. There are very few recognized consultants. We have done 3 adverts, international adverts. We finally decided to go to IMO. IMO was the one that eventually recommended a consultant who started and then pulled out. And then we now finally have gotten approval to engage a certain consultant. But then we realized that NLP already has the VTS, but along their own channel. It doesn't cover everywhere. A VTS is supposed to cover all the navigational aids nationwide, and that is what we are working on. And we will ensure that this is deployed, the transportation, along with the port community system. This is what will help NPA, first of all, perform our responsibilities. We also share it with other government agencies to ensure this does not happen. And don't forget that activities in the waterways also are being monitored by other government agencies. And that's why I also mentioned that the NIMASA is also deploying the deep blue assets to locations to mitigate against all these unscrupulous activities. Thank you. Madam, MP has been trying to procure VTS for over 10 years, not 7 years, before this government came in. And I've explained the problem is the procurement of it. Yeah, so I believe before the end of this administration, Nigeria should have a VTS, all things being equal. We have achieved more in terms of the deployment of VTS now than has ever been achieved. The fact that we have finally gotten a consultant, a certified consultant, that will take responsibility. The consultant needs to go through all the channels. They need to do their studies. They need to deploy anodes and sensors and link it up to our signal stations and so on and so forth. We have found a consultant that is ready to do that. So what we need to do is to expand it. We have the necessary support of the Federal Ministry of Transportation to ensure that this is deployed as quickly as possible.
The last round of questions.
I think you don't mind. Huh?
Anule.
Take one more round.
Arise. Ode and prompt news. The last round. There is a clarification here. So you might want to look at it. AIS means automatic identification
system. It's automatic
system.
identification system.
AIS, yes.
So, madam, every vessel has what they call an IMO number. So the AIS is on the vessel. Yeah? The VTS is a deployment of a system. The vessels that are into dark activity switch off the automatic identification system, so you can't identify. That is the AIS.
It's like putting your phone on flight.
We get it now, sir.
Yeah.
These ships have AIS. The AIS is turned off. The VTS will look for it. That's it. So, the fault that we have,
Yes.
In what order?
Yeah.
Later.
Okay.
The questions can go. Dr. Anuli.
All right, thank you. MD, my name is Dr. Anule Emmanuel. I write for AFP World News Agency. MD, do you see Nigeria dredging its major rivers? I asked you this question because I want to find out if the NPA is actually partnering with the National Inland Waterways and maybe other relevant agencies to see that Nigeria dredge, achieves this ambitious plan of dredging these major rivers. Reason for the connectivity of our major ports and their efficiency. I don't know why. If this is of interest, how have you been pushing so well? Because I'm sure this will be beneficiary to the country. Thank you.
Good morning. Well done, sir. I have a couple of clarifications, if you oblige me. My name is Adesua, and I work with Arise News. First, you said half year, NPA has generated over 172 billion, but I've also checked and I see that that figure was for August. Is it that no revenue has come in since then? And talking about the boys that are missing on the eastern corridors or the eastern seas, do we have technology, or don't we have technology that can also monitor these boys that we deploy that is expensive and difficult to put in place? The VTES you mentioned, is it also going to cover these boys that we're monitoring? And finally, you talked about the Onne port being the fastest growing port in Nigeria. Please, can you, throw more light on that in terms of what? You said exports and imports. Can we have more figures? Why is it why is it the fastest growing port in Nigeria? Thank you.
My name is Sunday Ode. I work for People's Daily Newspapers. MD, I'd like you to talk to us on inland ports. I had listened to you, and I know that there has been efforts to make these ports what you call ports of destination. Early this year, there was a report that before May or thereabouts, that the ones in Funtua and Kano will become fully operational. And I also know that these are also efforts to decongest the ports that have, the ports that have become a serious problem. So I'd like to know how these dry ports are performing. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, MD. Mine just very harmless. My name is Harry Awurumiba. I write for Prompt News Online. Last time we had the MD of Inland Waterways, and he did tell us that dredging, and when you were making your presentation, you touched there. That's one of the responsibilities that Nigerian Ports Authority handle. Sir, we all know that 97% of containers that come to Nigeria from whichever port end up in the southeast. And now, what is the NPA doing in conjunction with the Nigeria Inland Waterways to dredge the rivers, Orash, and River Niger to make sure that these containers that are being ferried by road or by rail that are not working at the moment come to their final destination in the southeast, where 95% of containers that come to Nigeria end up?
Okay.
The first question has to do with dredging of rivers. Yes, the major rivers, dredging of the major rivers. Dredging of rivers is the responsibility of Nigerian inland waterways. So what we are doing is to have a synergy where we ensure that our dredging activity gets to where they will pick up from to ensure that there is easy evacuation of cargo. But that plan is being worked on. There are so many tributaries and distributaries. You can't just go dredging everywhere. There needs to be a proper map, location, and they will need to find some of the shortest places. In some instances, rather than following the river meandering around, it's better you just cut through, reduce navigational time, and so on and so on. But we are working with NIWA, and we'll give them all the support. We have a hydrography department. We have a dredging unit. They are very well equipped, well experienced. It's as old as the Nigerian Ports Authority, actually. And we'll give Nigerian inland waterways all the necessary support. We have been collaborating with them. That is already ongoing. The half-year result given is because naturally in accounting, you take quarters. So I took that as a half-year. But of course, revenue has been generated in August. We can send that to you. Now, the buoys technology you are saying, why can't we? So at the point of they filter it. It has a sensor up there. Can you bring up a picture of it, please? I wish I can show you. So from the top there, so immediately after the main iron at the top is actually a solar panel. Some of them have solar panels. And then you have the sensors, and there is a beacon light there that flashes at night. So the first thing to do is to vandalize that sensor. Then you just have iron that has no life. And they can just, drag it, cut out the sinkers and what have you. That is what they do. We can monitor it if it is not disconnected. Let me use that word, you understand. So that's why we actually can find those that have gone adrift, those that have been taken away by nature, as long as they are not destroyed. At times we send in our boats to go around scouting for it, and to also be fair to the communities, we have had some instances where the buoys were naturally taken away by nature. They went adrift. They ended up at the shore of some communities, and to be fair to them, they have actually called us a couple of times to tell us there is a buoy that has gone adrift and it is in our community. We thank them for that. We thank them so much. We believe the individuals involved in this, probably the communities, don't even know they are involved in these activities. So we are monitoring the buoys, and that's how we get to know how many are stolen. Any day a buoy is stolen, because our captains are taking vessels in and out of the channel. They will naturally know that I can't find the beacon on this buoy. I can't find it. Something is missing, and they normally report it. In terms of One being the fastest growing. Now, even in our cargo throughput, what I'm saying is in terms of percentage increase, half year, One has done 11,800 metric tons, half of this year. We are seeing that the increase in percentage is high. Probably because it's easier to do business in One now. And of course, naturally, because we have deployed more equipment in One, more personnel, paid attention to ensure that we make the port more competitive. So that's what I meant by that. In terms of export also, there's an export processing terminal within itself. One of the terminal operators created an export processing terminal which we licensed. And they have all the equipment, the technology, and the processes to send it out. One of the terminal operators also expanded their terminals. They have spent about $100 million in terms of terminal expansion. That's West African Container Terminal. And so they have created more stacking areas. They're able to collect more cargo, and they don't have space problems, actually. And they have newer equipment, they have cranes, they have RTGs, and so on and so forth. So probably, if you are able to send in your cargo and clear it faster, naturally, in One, you are likely to go there also. The issue of inland ports, Nigerian Shippers Council is responsible for the setting up and operations of the inland ports. However, I know that there is a collaboration between the inland ports and our terminal operators. What we have requested the terminal operators to do is to enter a relationship with the inland ports so that an inland port, say in Lorin, in Sokoto, or in Onitsha, or wherever, can use, let's say, Onitsha. So the port of destination will be Onitsha, but of course it will naturally come through one of the ports in either Lagos, Apapa, or Tinkan. So that relationship is there. Some of them are talking with APMT, others are discussing with other people. There are issues with the tariffs, and also in terms of payment, the issue of charges for empty containers, because they will use containers to send in the cargo to the hinterland, to the dry ports. So these are issues that are being discussed. Terminal operators have requested for bonds from the inland dry ports. Some of the inland dry ports are saying, don't charge double, reduce these tariffs, and because for inland dry ports to be competitive, their cost should be as minimal as possible. And we believe that that cooperation has worked. At least Dala, we all know, started operations, and we are seeing activity has increased there. The dredging of ports, of other rivers, I have answered that. So when you dredge other rivers, what you have done is you have increased the length of navigable river path throughout the country. And we are working with Nigerian Inland Waterways. They are doing their studies. We are working with them. But for now, what they are using is barges. They are using barges, for instance, from One to Onitsha. Using barges to other locations, which we keep encouraging. And whenever the need arises, we will continue that collaboration to ensure that the dredging of those rivers. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, MD NPA. My duty is to thank you for this flawless and perfect presentation. And from it all, one can confidently say that, you know, you are charting the NPA, you are charting the path of NPA with efficiency, commitment, with the modesty and good behavior. I would say modesty because, look, if you look at the numbers he rendered on revenues, he didn't say, this is what I did. But the numbers speak of double-digit growth in revenue since he came executive officer of this organization. And we commend him for that. I recall very well, he was acting in May 2021. 6 months into that tenure, the former minister, Rotimi Amechi, was going everywhere with paper here, saying, look at the miracle that he's doing. Raising revenues, and not only that, also payment into consolidated revenue fund at a time when government needed money, you know, from revenue, you know, generating agencies. So he's doing so much of that, and I think that he needs to be appreciated for what we're seeing. He charmed everyone here. He charmed the administration. And that's why he didn't take any trouble to his confirmation in April, I think. This, congratulations. Yeah. Let me also thank his team, the people who have come to support him at this briefing. We have the Executive Director, Marine Operations, Honorable Honari Brown. He's been at that end there. The Executive Director, Engineering and Technical Services, Professor Idris Abubakar. Thank you. And the Executive Director, Finance and Administration, Dr. Adenrele Susanna Additional. Well done. I hope it's not our own additional. Otherwise, Femi would have been proud of you. Yes. We also have the General Manager, Marine and Operations, Captain Jerome Angunyi. I hope I've got it right. Well done. Thank you. And Assistant General Manager, Lance Razak Additional Babatunde Salau. That's him over there. We also have the Technical Assistant to the MD, Ike Onye Mekara. That's Uche's friend. We have the Senior Communications Officer, Sandy Iwolabi. Thank you for your efforts. And the Principal Manager, Corporate and Strategic Communications, Abuja Office, Salisudam Kombo. I think he's a familiar one around us here. I also wish to thank members of the Presidential Communications team present here with us. Oge was operating the engines behind the scene. Uche Ozurumba. Loretta left us. The campaign has started, and I think this is what the president warned. He said the work must not suffer because of pain. So we are seeing that now. And Biodun, the director of media in the office, that's him there. Dejo and James. Sorry for. Oh, Tolu, aha. Tolu, we didn't start with you, Tolu. Don't blame me. Yes, Tolu is the digital manager for the president. And James, as I said, and Dejo for the online streaming and the effects. And all of you, the correspondents, we say this week in, week out, that without you, this will be a very dangerous and boring monologue. So we count on your support, that you give attention, draw attention to the enormous successes that MD Koko is bringing to the Nigerian Ports Authority. Thank you and have a good day. Well done, MD, and congratulations again. Very well done. Thank you. BBC, VON, I think you should.